In March of 1960, police in Independence, Missouri were notified that a local man named James Kinne had been shot in the back of the head in his home. The 25-year-old passed away en route to the hospital. After questioning his wife, police believed her story that their 2-year-old daughter accidentally shot her father while playing with his gun. As implausible as that sounds, James Kinne's wife, Sharon Kinne, was very convincing. The incident was determined to be a terrible accident, but when more deaths began to occur around Sharon, it started to become clear that this was one master manipulator, an extreme sociopath. Her charm and power of persuasion was strong enough to fool juries, win over courtroom spectators, and convince herself that she could get away with anything, including murder. As of 2024, no one has been able to prove this woman, who would become known as La Pistolera, completely wrong in that assessment.
Timothy McVeigh was arrested by local authorities.
What's the guardrail? At the end of the guardrail,
it was like a black hole. It was like like a crack, and everything that fell into that crack just disappeared.
Sharon Kinne was born on November 30th, 1939 as Sharon Elizabeth Hall in Independence, Missouri. She spent most of her childhood there, although her family did move to Washington State for a couple of years in her teens before returning to Missouri. She first met James Kinne in 1956 when she was just 16 and he was 22. They began to date, but he eventually moved to Utah to attend Brigham Young University. After learning from Sharon that she was pregnant, James returned to Independence, and the couple married on October 18, 1956, while she was still just 16 years old. The marriage license showed her as being 18 and a widow, both which were false. Sharon later claimed to have miscarried the baby that caused James to return to Missouri. Based on everything we are about to learn about Sharon Kinne, there's a strong likelihood that she was never pregnant in the first place and used this story to convince James to return to Missouri. Whatever the case, she actually did become pregnant later, and the couple had a baby girl named Dana. To help support the family, James worked as an electrical engineer. Their income was modest, but Sharon lived lavishly, spending her days shopping and burning through the family's money. She also engaged in relationships outside the marriage. This continued even after the couple had a second child, a boy named Troy. Sharon was getting serious in one of her extramarital affairs with a friend from high school named John Boldizes. James was now contemplating divorce due to the financial strain Sharon's spending put on the family, as well as her infidelity. Sharon wanted out as well, but saw another way out other than the traditional divorce. Although she had told James that she would give him a divorce if he gave her the house, the children, and $1,000 in alimony, she was also likely eyeing the life insurance policy on James, which was valued at $29,000, almost $250,000 today. This leads us to March 19, 1960, when police responded to that emergency call. James Kinne had been shot in the back of the head and died on the way to the hospital. When interviewed, Sharon seemed absolutely devastated and convincing, to the point that investigators mostly believed that a 2-year-old pulled the trigger. According to Chief of Police James R. Browning, I thought she was credible and she was very distraught, and it was very genuine. And then for me, it became a problem of, if the little girl did it, what a shame, what a terrible tragedy. Some of the members of the sheriff's office were skeptical, but since there were no other witnesses, they had to accept her story. Furthermore, the 2-year-old proved able to pull the trigger in tests performed afterwards, and according to neighbors, James had been known for letting his daughter play with guns. Combined with all of that, Sharon's ability to tell her version of what happened with complete confidence eliminated any chance of her being further investigated, much less charged with the murder. According to James Hayes in the book The Sharon Kinne Story, all they could do was just buy into whatever it was Sharon was telling them, and she was very convincing. And that's not to their discredit. When Sharon told you something, you were expected to believe it. She was that good. Sharon convinced the insurance company as well and was paid the $29,000, which she used to go shopping for a new vehicle. In her efforts to buy a Ford Thunderbird, she likely used her charm and skills of manipulation to get the best price possible when speaking to the salesman, Walter Jones. Walter, who was already married to a woman named Patricia, took a liking to Sharon, and they began an affair. Sharon wanted him to leave his wife and children and begin a new life with her. He had no intentions of leaving his family, but when Sharon wanted something, she would get it, no matter what it took. She reached into her bag of tricks and attempted one that had worked in the past. She told him she was pregnant, expecting him to drop everything and run to her side as James did. However, Walter was already married with a family and not interested in starting another. He told her that the affair was over, breaking up their relationship. So Sharon had to take matters to another level, which she had no problem doing. In her mind, she could get away with anything and no one would question her. She called Patricia Jones and explained that her husband was having an affair with another woman. However, she did not identify herself as that woman, rather as the woman's sister. She asked Patricia for a face-to-face meeting to discuss the matter in detail. Patricia agreed, and when the time came, left her home for the meeting, but never returned. Walter Jones filed a missing person report and tried frantically to find out what had happened to his wife. Through phone calls, he found out that Patricia had a meeting with an unknown woman and had been dropped off at a street corner where she entered a car with this woman who matched the description of Sharon. Walter confronted Sharon, demanding more information. She admitted to meeting with his wife, but said that she dropped her off near her home and had not seen her since. Then things took a wild turn when Sharon got involved in the search. She took along one of her other lovers, John Boldizes, and directed him to a popular Lover's Lane area about a mile outside of Independence. There she told him to get out of the car and go walk over to check out a certain area not far away. He did so and was absolutely horrified to come upon the body of Patricia Jones lying in the grass, shot dead. Sharon incredibly believed that she could just tell him to not mention to police that she was with him when they found the body. As manipulative as she was also overconfident. And of course, when questioned by police, John immediately informed them that Sharon Kinne was with him and told him exactly where to look when he found the body. Investigators remembered Sharon from the death of her husband and almost immediately charged her with not only the murder of Patricia Jones, but also of her husband. Each murder was charged separately and required its own trial. First came the Patricia Jones trial, the case which seemed more provable, as Sharon was the last person seen with Patricia. There was obvious motive, as she was in an affair with the deceased woman's husband and was trying to get him to leave her. Another man even testified that Sharon had secretly purchased a .22 caliber pistol from him, the same caliber that killed Patricia. And the smoking gun should have been that she directed John Boldizes directly to the body, proving she knew the exact location. Unfortunately, none of it mattered. Sharon charmed the entire courtroom, including the all-male jury. She became a celebrity across the state of Missouri, and people began to support her. The spectators were infatuated with her, and everyone focused on her during the entire trial, but with awe and fascination instead of suspicion. After the jury came back with a non-guilty verdict, the entire courtroom erupted in applause and cheers. At least one juror asked for her autograph. It seemed if she could beat the Patricia Jones charge, she could certainly beat the charge for murdering her husband. However, during this trial, John Boldizes took the stand and revealed that Sharon had once offered him $1,000 to kill her husband. He admitted this might have been a joke, however, slightly lessening the impact of the statement. Still, the jury eventually determined she was guilty. This conviction did not last long, however, as the Missouri Supreme Court overturned the conviction on a legal technicality, and while awaiting the retrial, she was released on bond in July of 1963. 2 more trials took place, but both ended in mistrials. One due to a tainted jury member, and the other because the jury could not come up with a unanimous verdict. Before the 4th trial was scheduled to begin in October of 1964, Sharon took off to Mexico with a new lover named Francis Samuel Pugliese. They brought some guns with them from the United States, and then she purchased another in Mexico. The couple were staying at a hotel in Mexico when Sharon left without Pugliese and went to a local bar. She was likely trying to use her powers to get some money out of some lonely man, and the man she found was Francisco Paredes Ordóñez, who was staying at another hotel in the area. Sharon left with him to his hotel room, and once there, shot him dead. A hotel employee named Enrique Martinez Rueda rushed to the room after hearing the gunshots, and Sharon shot him as well. He ran off with a bullet in his shoulder but managed to lock Sharon in the room. When police arrived, Sharon claimed she only went to his hotel room to see some photographs he offered to show her, but he ended up making some sexual advances towards her, resulting in her firing the gun in self-defense. The police did not buy it for a second and believed that she tried to get money out of Ordóñez, and when he refused, she killed him. Police began their investigation, and after testing some of the guns they found in Sharon's room, they discovered that the ballistics matched the same gun that was used to kill Patricia Jones. Unfortunately, nothing could be done about this, as she could not be recharged due to double jeopardy. However, she was charged and quickly convicted of murdering Francisco Paredes Ordóñez. She was sentenced to 10 years in a Mexican prison, which was extended to 13 after her appeal, which was filed to reduce or eliminate the sentence, and it completely backfired. While in prison in Mexico, Sharon picked up the nickname La Pistolera, the gunfighter, and the press ran with it. However, Sharon would not serve her entire sentence. On December 7, 1969, she failed to show up for 2 consecutive counts and was officially on the loose as a fugitive. A manhunt ensued but came up completely empty. Investigations revealed that a blackout had occurred around the time of her escape, and a door that was normally locked was left unsecured. There was also an unguarded and open window that she could have squeezed through. It is likely she used her wit and charm to get one or more of the guards to help her in the escape. In the James Hayes book, he writes about how she could have been anything she wanted, but chose a life of crime. She could have been a pioneer woman in politics or in academia or anything, but she chose to go the other way around. She let greed, avarice, and promiscuity rule her life. There are various theories on how Sharon escaped and who helped her do it, but we will likely never know because Sharon Kinne has not been seen since. Since she learned to speak Spanish fluently in prison, there's a strong possibility that she fled southward, heading towards Guatemala or another country in Central or South America, where she would be very difficult, if not impossible, to locate. Assuming she lay low, this might have proved difficult for this woman, who originally killed for life insurance money, but then either derived some sick pleasure from it or came to the conclusion that whenever she needed someone eliminated, she could just kill them, as she felt no remorse or empathy in the aftermath. Sharon Kinne would be 84 years old if alive today. Unlike many other fugitive cases, there have been few sightings of Kinne. She seems to have completely vanished into thin air. Many speculate that she was murdered by the Ordóñez family, who may have also assisted in her escape, just to kill her once she was out. Most likely, she didn't last long after the escape, as it seems near impossible that someone like her would not commit another crime or murder. Although it is possible, she realized there was no way she could just keep killing and get away with it. If she had any chance to stay out of prison for the rest of her life, she would have had to settle down somewhere quietly and live out her life without acting like the complete sociopath that she was. I don't find this to be a very likely outcome, but certainly cannot be eliminated as a possibility. As of this recording, Kinne is still considered at large and holds the record for the longest outstanding warrant in Kansas City, Missouri, and she's also still wanted in Mexico, although the search stopped shortly after her escape. Escape from prison itself is not a crime in Mexico, so even if she's ever captured, she would only have to serve out the remainder of her sentence. Thank you for checking out today's video on Sharon Kinne, La Pistolera, whose amazing ability to use her charisma and charm in order to influence men led her to commit 3 murders, one which she was acquitted for, one which the charges could never stick through 3 trials, and one which she was finally convicted for, but then just escaped prison anyway. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe button if you enjoyed the video, and check out some of my other videos on prison escapees and fugitives, along with other true crime videos and just general stuff that happened. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next time.